Bright QT. Every student matters.
Hello everyone. Now let's start with our next topic here, that is the rise of middle class. Now students, before this you already have learned one thing. What is that? You read about the factors that led to the rise of nation states, and you must remember that there are three important factors. Now the first one is rise of middle class, second one is the idea of liberalism, and the third one is Treaty of Vienna and spirit of conservatism. Now these three factors led to the rise of this idea, that is nation states and eventually nationalism, which we already have read that it started after the French Revolution. Now let us try to understand how this idea of or the rise of middle class, it influenced the society in a whole. Now till the 19th century, when I am telling 19th century, it means from about 1800 to 1900 period. Okay, 1899, let's say. So basically, it was till the 19th century that landed aristocracy, they were the most powerful group. Now, what do we understand by this term? That is aristocracy. As these pictures signify, aristocrats, they were the highest class in the society, the powerful people. So, these people who were powerful and also they had a lot of money and they had the highest status in the society. Now, these were the most important groups when? Till the 19th century. But after that, we see some changes. But here we have to understand who were these aristocrats. So, these aristocrats, they were a close-knit group connected by ties of marriage. So, how they were connecting each other? So, basically, it was a small group in which people, all the families, one or other, they used to marry their child in these families. Okay, so it was a small group and they were connected by these ties of marriage. Apart from this, they were the people who used French language for official purposes. Okay, so this is how they were connected with each other. But we see that these were the only small group there in Europe. But after some times, that is in the 19th century, afterwards, what do we see? We see that the majority population here, when we are talking about the whole of Europe, this was peasants or tenants. Now peasants, these farmers, and tenants, these were the people who rented lands from the landlords. So this was the whole concept there. Before this, there was a feudal society in Europe, about which you already have read in the French Revolution, okay, in your 9th class. So, while we are talking about Europe and the society there, we see that in the Central and Eastern Europe, vast states were farmed by serfs. Here, like I mentioned, the feudal society. So, you must be remembering this, that when we are talking about feudal society, it is the relation between the lords and the vassals. They were also referred as the serfs who had to work under their lord or master. Okay. So basically, what do we see here? We see that in Central and Eastern Europe, all these vast states, these large farms, the large areas, they were farmed by these serfs who worked under their masters. In Western Europe, tenants cultivated the lands. So here we see the difference. When we are talking about the Central and the Eastern Europe, these areas, they were farmed by the serfs. But when we are talking about the Western Europe, we see that the tenants, they were held responsible for cultivating the lands. Okay. So what do we see here? We see the change after Industrial Revolution. So do you remember when did the Industrial Revolution take place? So it was in the 18th century itself that the Industrial Revolution took place. And when we are talking about where did it take place first? So it was England. But when we are talking about Europe, what do we see here? Here, the Industrial Revolution, it took place in the second half of 19th century. And it was during this period that the society was also changing. So after the Industrial Revolution, a lot of industries came up, right? And with the coming up of industries, a lot of people, they started settling down in these urban areas, right? So definitely industrialization and urbanization, they were going hand in hand. So new social groups, they emerged consisting of working class and the middle class. Now it's obvious, students, that people, they started migrating from the rural areas to the urban areas in search of what? In search of work. And they started settling down near the industrial regions. Okay? And who were these people? These people were the working class. And apart from this, the educated middle class. Now the coming up of educated middle class shows us what here? It shows us this shift in the ideology. At first, what did we see? We saw that the landed aristocracy, they were the dominant group or the powerful group, right? Not the dominant but the powerful group there, right? But they were small in number. Now, while we are talking about the peasants and serfs or the tenants, we see that they were larger in number as compared to the aristocrats. So here, the rise of this educated middle class, what does it show? It tells that this idea or the spread of the ideas of liberalism and national unity. Yes, students. Now, while these educated middle class, they started coming up in different parts of Europe, they started spreading this idea of liberalism, about which we are going to study next. And also, they emphasized on national unity, which was not done earlier. And it led to the rise of nation state, the concept of nationalism and nation state. They also demanded an end to the privileges of aristocracy. Yes, they wanted to live a free life, right? And they also wanted to have equal status in the society. And that is why they started emphasizing on all these new ideas that was not known to people, or they never try to emphasize on those ideas. So here, three important points are there that you have to remember. When we are talking about the rise of new middle class, they stressed on the idea of liberalism, national unity, and also demanded to end the privileges of aristocracy, the life that were enjoyed by the landed aristocrats. Okay, the powerful group there. Now students, let's discuss the questions that have been asked regarding this topic in your exercise section. So in multiple choice question, you will find one question here, that is, socially and politically dominant class in Europe during the mid 18th century was A. the nobility, B. the landed aristocracy, C. the church, and D. the absolute monarch. Now you have been given four options, and here you have read about only one class, and that is the landed aristocracy that I explained you right now. That till the 19th century, the dominant class in Europe, or let's say mid 18th century, the dominant class in Europe was the landed aristocracy class. So the answer here will be B.